Today we're going to be going over everything that Sony revealed or talked about in regards to PlayStation at CES yesterday, and it's going to make for a pretty interesting conversation, I believe, because we're already starting to see some new narratives unfold from this little event that Sony did, or I don't want to say little event because CES is a big event for Sony, but this little press conference that they did for PlayStation. And some people are going with the narrative that they're really disappointed, they're really underwhelmed, and they were expecting a lot more, and it's just an incredible disappointment. And the other side of people, well, these are obviously mostly Xbox fans who are excited about everything Microsoft is doing with the next generation. They're basically making it sound like Sony is really dropping the ball here and having a big struggle, and Microsoft is just taking it and running with it because obviously Microsoft has already revealed the Xbox Series X. They revealed Hellblade 2. Phil Spencer changed his profile picture yesterday, and there's just a lot more discussion around the next generation Xbox than there is the PS5 currently, and most of it is stemming from Microsoft and their eagerness to really kind of be more aggressive with it. And so that's what's going to make this conversation very interesting, because there was a very important theme, I believe, in yesterday's showing from PlayStation that a lot of people don't seem to be understanding, or they don't want to understand it. And so we're going to discuss that. Now, obviously, the big PlayStation 5 related reveal was the logo, and it looks exactly how everybody and their mother expected it to look, and there's nothing wrong with that. We know they're keeping it simple. You can't go wrong going from PS4 to PS5. I'm excited for it. I think the logo looks perfectly fine. I don't think it needs any type of overhaul, or it doesn't need to be any different. I think it just looks fine. It's worked for PlayStation up until this point. Don't fix it if it's not broken, right? And that was pretty much it. They did actually also confirm some of the features that the PlayStation 5 is going to offer, and they put up a picture, reconfirming 3D audio, haptics / adaptive triggers, ultra high speed SSD, hardware based ray tracing, which is a big one, and Ultra HD Blu-ray, which is not such a big one, but still something nice. And so that is pretty much all we got PlayStation related, and I think that that's perfectly fine. And the other stuff that Sony focused on had to do with the PlayStation 4. Not only did they show a few sizzle reel trailers for PlayStation 4 games, but they talked about some statistics. They announced that they have sold over 106 million PS4s worldwide, which is extremely impressive, and also is very telling. It is very obvious. That makes it very obvious, in my opinion, as to why Sony is taking a much slower, more methodical approach to how they're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 throughout 2020, and why they're taking such a different approach compared to how Microsoft is. It should be obvious, but to some people it might not be. So that is very impressive. What's also extremely impressive is they announced that they have actually sold 1.15 billion games on PS4. Now, that is an attach rate of over 10 games, about 10 games for every PlayStation 4 console sold. That is insane. That is really, really good. And I don't think people fully understand just how good that is. Essentially, for every person buying a PlayStation 4, they're selling 10 games along with it. And that is where Sony makes the majority of their money from the PlayStation division, is through games. So, yeah, that is really good. They also announced that PlayStation VR has sold 5 million units, which is really good. Obviously, it hasn't taken off the way some people expected it to, but I believe they are still the market leader. And there's I think 5 million sold is definitely enough incentive for them to continue pushing forward. We know they're going to with the next version of PSVR. They announced 103 monthly active users, which is very good. And then they also announced 38.8 million PS Plus subscribers. Now, one other thing I do want to point out here is apparently, if you want to compare the growth here year over year, at CES 2019, Sony did talk about PlayStation 4, and at that time, they had 91.6 million PS4s sold. They had 876 million games sold and 90 million active PSN users. So some pretty significant growth year over year there. Now, why is Sony spending so much time talking about PlayStation 4? Well, it's obvious. They have a lot of people who are heavily invested in the PlayStation 4 ecosystem, but more importantly than that, they have a big year ahead. 2020 may be the year of the PlayStation 5, and it's going to be the year of the next-gen consoles, but 2020 is also going to be a very, very significant year, possibly the best year ever, potentially, for PlayStation 4. And this is something that Sony is very aware of. The distinct difference between the position that Microsoft is in with Xbox and has been in with Xbox versus the position that Sony is in with PlayStation and has been in with PlayStation, it's pretty simple. Xbox needed to do what they did at the Game Awards. I think they did a great job with it. I've already went on record saying this. I think that the reveal of the Xbox Series X was done extremely well. It was kind of perfect in a way where it was a surprise for people, and it was during an event where anybody who's interested in this thing is going to be watching this event. That's, I think they did a good job, but Microsoft had to do that, and they also had to show Hellblade alongside it, because the Xbox One generation has been abysmal, I think, to say the least. And Microsoft is in a position where they are very much ready, and they have been ready to just kind of rid themselves of the Xbox One generation and move on. In fact, many of the fans have also been eager and ready as well. To whereas with Sony and the PlayStation 4, it has been the literal opposite. The PlayStation 4 generation has been fantastic. People have been loving almost every minute of what the PlayStation 4 generation has been offering in terms of games, and it's just been going so well for Sony sales-wise, and it's been going really well for players, mostly games-wise as well. So because of that, there is less of a fire under Sony to just immediately get out there as quickly as they can and start running with it, because they know that they have to strike a fine balance between how much do we continue supporting the PlayStation 4 and talking about it versus how much do we talk about the next generation. Because here's the fact of the matter, people. The next generation is coming regardless. It's just a matter of timing. And timing for Sony right now is everything, just like it is everything for Microsoft as well. The timing of when Microsoft revealed their console was, I'd say, perfect. They needed to do that. I think it would have been fine if they waited, but they definitely are showing that type of aggression that fans have been asking for, that gamers have been asking for, and I'm happy for that. This is good. We need to see Microsoft really coming out here swinging, and I think so far they're doing a pretty good job of that. But the mistake that people are making right now, and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine if you feel this way. I'm not trying to tell you how you should feel, because that's up to you to decide. But I do believe it is a mistake for anybody to be sitting here underestimating PlayStation and what their plans are when it comes to talking about the PlayStation 5 and having big reveals alongside the PlayStation 5 throughout this year. I think you're making a big mistake. Okay, now, Sony has been known to be extremely competitive in the past, and that is absolutely not changing. Them deciding to say we're just going to show the logo at CES, well, first of all, even though there has been a lot of speculation, and we've been doing some speculation of our own here on the channel about what they might show, I was pretty convinced that they were at least going to tease the DualShock 4 or 5 controller. They didn't do that. They just showed the logo, which I think is fine. I think that's more than enough. It tells me that they are definitely going to have a massive blowout at some point, and when they do, mark my words, anybody who's sitting here being like, man, Sony's dropping the ball, Sony's weak right now, they're not going to be able to compete, these people are going to be eating their words, and it's going to be kind of funny. I think that people need to understand there's some big stuff still coming for PlayStation 4, and Sony needs to make sure that they do not neglect that or ignore that, especially compared to what's coming to the Xbox One for the remainder of 2020. That is just the truth of the matter. Sony has smaller games like Neo 2, Predator Hunting Grounds, Dreams, stuff like that coming, but they also have some mega titles like Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, So it is absolutely imperative that Sony makes it clear that they are still all about PlayStation 4, supporting those 106 million people who bought it with some amazing content to finish out the generation, while also reminding people that yes, the PS5 is on the horizon and they have big plans, and Jim Ryan said it himself, in the months ahead they have a lot more to share and reveal and announce. So it's fine if you want to, you're going to see people trying to write the narrative right now. And I'm not trying to go on defensive mode or anything like that, because I'm not, I don't care. I didn't expect Sony to do anything, potentially not do anything PlayStation 5 related. CES, anybody who was expecting something big at CES from PlayStation, clearly, I think, has not been paying attention to what Sony traditionally does when it comes to their gaming segment or section at CES. This is pretty much how it's always been. They don't have big reveals during CES. That's not the purpose of CES. If anybody who was expecting to see the PS5, I could understand that, because Microsoft already did it, so naturally think, well, now Sony's going to want to rush to do it. Not necessarily. I mean, I thought it could be a possibility. It's just pretty unlikely. Anybody who was expecting game announcements, definitely too early for that. Okay? Honestly, I know some people don't want to hear this, but I do think it's just the truth. Don't expect to get the majority of PlayStation 5 or next generation game announcements until E3 of this year. Or at the very least, I guess we'll see some stuff during the reveal of the PlayStation 5 at a reveal event. But believe me when I tell you, E3 is going to be the time. Okay? The focus between now and E3 is going to be on the PlayStation 4 lineup. Now, Microsoft is probably going to be a little bit more aggressive in that time than Sony will, because, again, Microsoft is in a position where they do have some games coming between, now and E3, but those games are not on the same level as Final Fantasy VII Remake. Those games are not on the same level as The Last of Us Part 2. It's just not. So ultimately, my thoughts on what Sony talked about and showed relating the PlayStation at CES, I was perfectly fine with. I think that them showing the logo served its purpose, and that purpose is they're just teasing that the PlayStation 5 is here, it's coming this year, and in the months ahead they are going to have a lot to reveal, a lot to show, and a lot to talk about. But they also wanted to put a big emphasis on how well the PlayStation 4 has done and how they're continuing to support the PlayStation 4 in a big and meaningful way in 2020 for those who are not going to be jumping on board with the PlayStation 5 immediately. And I think that is a perfect balance. In fact, it seems very, I'd say, different from Microsoft, where, in my opinion, Microsoft has made it more than obvious that they are ready to go and just kind of be done with the whole Xbox One generation. And frankly, can anybody blame them? I can't. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Be sure to leave the video a like if you did enjoy it. Really helps it out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.